The panelists will include Odunoye Ojo, Senior Development Manager, West Africa Endeavour, Boyoga Balagon, Managing Partner, Balagon and Balagon, Lanray from Director Capital Markets, JLL, and Emeka Offa, who's the Director Strategic Communications, Nigeria Investment Promotion Center. I would like to welcome the panel as well as Gbenga for the presentation. Thank you.
I'd like to start by thanking the organizers for giving me the graveyard shift, because I guess what this means is even if I say what you don't want to hear, you just listen to me. I'll start by welcoming the panel. Could you please give them a round of applause? I have a very quick presentation before we go straight to the panel. Now I'll start, I'm sure we all know about the free trade zone. We are not only talking about the free trade zone here today, we're actually discussing the entire Lekki-Epe axis. And it's clear to us, and experts have forecasted, that that zone is definitely going to be one that has not been seen in this country before. I was actually having a discussion with someone earlier on today, and I did not realize that the Dangote refinery alone is the biggest refinery in the world. Did someone say in the world or in Africa? In the world. Now that is actually quite scary, because what this tells me, and the question that comes to me, is a major wonder if we are actually prepared with regards to supporting infrastructure for that zone. Where do I point this? Thank you. Now, of course, there's a saying in Nigeria that opportunity knocks once. But I believe that for the free trade zone, this time around, opportunity doesn't knock, it presents itself when you actually beat down the door. And clearly, the early movers are doing exactly this. Now, I'm sure we all know the Lekki axis, but I'm just going to do a quick run through. Obviously, we are not only talking about the free trade zone, but we're taking the Lekki axis all the way from Lekki Phase 1, Agudi, Awoyaya, Lakawe, Eleko, all the way to the free trade zone itself. What we're discussing today and what we're trying to say is a clear explanation that opportunities exist between the east, which clearly is the free trade zone side, all the way to the west, being Lekki Phase 1. Now the free trade zone at a glance. Projected year of completion 2022. We're talking of the first phase, obviously, because it's going to be work in progress for quite a long period of time. It's 65 kilometers east of Lagos. It has 9 designated industrial zones. It has over 800 hectares within the zone. And for occupants of the zone, we are talking about 100% exemptions and preferential policies. Now, what opportunities exist? Quite a lot, and I believe our distinguished panel will be discussing this. One that hits me on this list is the provision of jobs for over 200,000 people. For those who read the newspapers, I think just last week, Dangote put out an advert for 3,000 people, and this is not the first, and I can assure you it's not going to be the last. Now, of course, there are different zones, opportunities for multiple industries. It's an integrated node where you have convergent transportation with a lot of infrastructural advantages. There is a deep sea port. Again, I understand that Dangote has taken the initiative without waiting for others what others are doing, and already has its own big jetty that will take a whole ship. And clearly this would be a good zone for regional connectivity between West Africa and the rest of Africa. Now, what opportunities do we have in this axis? Site and service schemes, housing estates, shopping malls, warehouses and industrial parks, other recreational parks as well. Now, the question we would ask ourselves is that what sectors will benefit from the boom? Without doubt, every single sector is likely to benefit. But those that are worthy of noting are agriculture, construction, services, financial services, healthcare, consumer goods, information, and communication technology. Oil and gas, which we already have there, utilities, natural resources, and industrial goods. Now, indication of an increase in prices over the last 5 years. I can tell you for free that the first transaction I had in that zone was somewhere called Shokotego, very close to the Lagos Business School. And we bought plots of land at 100,000 naira each in 1994. The same site, plots have been sold for 20 million. So do the math, no matter how badly the naira has done, the capital appreciation is real in any currency. Now, some stats here, even between 2013 and 2018, we've seen between 130 and 300% increase. In fact, some areas have already done 300% same year, especially within the free trade zone. So this tells us that there's really a lot going on there. Now, just as I round up this part so we can listen to the panel, we can't talk about advantages without running through the pitfalls. We need to understand the complex private land ownership model in the axis. There are people who send me brochures telling me, oh, there are these developers doing this and that, asking me, Gbenga, should I do this? And I tell them, even if I were to buy in this axis, I'm a real estate professional, I'm not a lawyer, I will still do my due diligence. So we do the right thing. Of course, there's a lot of encroachment. We have land grabbers. Now I'm talking about the private land, because what we're trying to discuss here today is the opportunities within and outside the free trade zone. Then several site and service schemes considered to be in progress have been abandoned. Indeed, I know of a few of them. Now, this is a point that I want to make, and I think I'm going to take up one or two people on this. Unless there is an aggressive alternative road or rail transportation channel to Lagos Island, access to this area is going to be chaotic in the next few years. You can imagine the amount of tankers that the Dangote refinery will be sending to Lagos and be sending to other parts of Lagos through Gbenga. So this is food for thought for us. Now let us remember that you've got these guys to look out for. These are your typical family land opportunists, including a guy wearing the Arsenal jersey. We need to be mindful of this fact, and I know one of our panelists is a lawyer of repute, so he will probably be telling us what we could do differently. Finally, Lekki Epiaxis today, let's remember that there's work going on. Worthy of mention is Rendevo's ambitious initiative being done in collaboration with the Lagos State government. So the question is, where are the opportunities? Yes, we're in a recession, And two statements I've always loved for this recession. Never miss an opportunity like a good recession. And a recession is a terrible thing to waste. Let's make the most of it. So I thank you for listening as we turn to our distinguished panel. Okay. Now, I'm actually wondering who I'm going to start with, because we have four powerful gentlemen here. But I'm tempted to start with someone who was there at the beginning, and that would be you, Gbenga. I think what we need to do is, as I ask you the first question to make your comment, please introduce yourself before you answer. I know you were there in the early days of the free trade zone, and definitely part of the success story. Can you please share with us the vision from day one? And what are your thoughts with regards to a scorecard for the free trade zone?
I am Gbenga Balogun, partner Balogun, legal practitioners. In 2006, the governor decided to form an economic development zone in the Lekki axis, and thereafter we went to the president and signed the agreements via NEBSA. NEBSA is the Nigerian Export Processing Zone Authority, and Lekki started. In 2008, I was one of the few people that worked on the Lekki Free Zone regulations. Now, looking at Lekki, Lekki encompasses about 16,500 square meters of land. Hectares, I said, 16,500 hectares of land, 16,500. Dangote refinery alone encompasses an area of about 2,700 hectares of land. That means that Dangote is about 8 times, Dangote refinery is about 8 times the size of Victoria Island. And we are going to have one industry, one refinery that has a petrochemical arm, the gas arm, and the fertilizer arm, which means that Lekki is going to be the biggest economic developer in Nigeria. The development has started in earnest, and Dangote is moving extremely fast. The reason I've started with Dangote is because Dangote is the fastest zone in that axis. There are a lot of other developments which I would like to mention. There's the Lekki Free Zone, there's the Lagos Free Zone, there's the Lagos Port, there's the Rendezvous Free Zone, and there's the airport also in that axis. All of this within the 16,500 hectares. When the idea was conceived, it was to make the Lekki Free Zone the economic booster for the entire country. And the Chinese investors came in first. They took up 3,000 hectares. Lagos Free Zone followed, Dangote followed, Seaport followed, Dangote Jetty followed, A lot of the free zone have started doing business. One of the things and the ideas behind the free zone is the ease of doing business. All over the world and the global standard for free zones, which thereafter I would like to call developmental zones, is to ensure that each country can boost its economic activities from a model. The model is very simple. Build a cluster, put in industries in that cluster, then replicate the clusters thereafter. So we started this in Lekki, and we developed the Chinese arm, which was the Lekki Free Zone Development Company. Lekki Free Zone Development Company went on to start by selling land leasing land, building the warehousing area, and Nigerians started to invest quickly. One of the greatest advantages of the free zone is it's a fast-track economic area, fast track. Everything is done from a one-stop shop. Everything is within the zone. You have your customs, you have your immigration, you have your police. Everything is done within the zone, and you're supposed to be able to register, enter the zone, start your work within a 30-day period. The Lekki Free Zone area, I believe, has been a success story. It has been able to employ a lot of people within the communities. Several people have been employed, unskilled and skilled laborers have been employed. But the one greatest advantage to the zone is that it is going to be the next biggest economic booster for Nigeria. Dangote alone is the biggest refinery in the world, and they are going to be refining several products, which include diesel, petrol, kerosene, and other products. There's also the fertilizer plant and the gas plant. One of the things people need to look at is also the opportunities that are in the Lekki Free Zone. Most free zones have dollarized economy. It means that you invest with dollars and you can earn your incomes in dollars. For instance, if you want to buy a parcel of land in the Lekki Free Zone, you pay dollars for it. If you lease the land, you pay dollars for it. So you don't need to be talking about naira or depreciation and things like that. But I would just like to touch on this part and leave my other panelists to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we can actually go home after that wonderful overview. There are a few that I've learned here today. I think it will be apt to turn over to Olaniyan, especially since you have told us we've started by talking about an initiative. Do you want to share what Rendeavor is doing in that axis with us?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I thank the organizers for inviting me. So, my name is Olaniyan. I lead the development function for Rendeavor for West Africa. Rendeavor is an urban land developer. We have projects in 5 countries in Africa: Kenya, Zambia, DRC, Ghana, and Nigeria. So in Nigeria, one of the projects we're doing is a 1,000-hectare mixed-use scheme in the Lekki Free Zone. So for those that are familiar with the Lekki Free Zone, the zone is divided into 4 quadrants. So there are 2 southern quadrants, southeast and southwest, which Barrister Paloma has just described as Dangote and the Chinese zone. So Rendeavor is the first entrant into the northern quadrant. So we have 1,000 hectares in the northwest quadrant. Now, just for context, the whole of Victoria Island is about 800 hectares of land, and the Rendeavor project is 1,000 hectares. So it's bigger than Victoria Island in size. That is the scale of the project. And it's conceived as a PPP with Lagos State government. Rendeavor has the responsibility to manage and execute that project. And the idea is to try and move development in that direction of time.
The population of Nigeria will be so huge. By 2050, we are looking at being the 3rd most populous nation in the world, with about 410 million people in Nigeria. And then we're also looking at the fact that the economy, the GDP of Nigeria will get to be the 14th largest in the world. And some of these calculations or projections we are drawn from Lekki, the impact of Lekki on the economy of Nigeria. So there's no gainsaying the fact that it's going to be huge. But there are challenges. And some of these challenges, from the standpoint of NIPC, will be to make sure that we support whatever is going in that axis. some areas we do basically, looking at the four roles that I identified earlier, we try to support them in each of those areas to ensure that, most importantly, they have the required information. Recently, NIPC has introduced some reforms. One of them is what we call the Investment Opportunities Profiling Template. Our platform is an online platform where you present the opportunities you have, and we see how we can match you with potential investors and promoters. The number two thing that we do to support development in that axis is to make information available. We have what we call the online investment guide, which provides information, detailed information, including the cost of doing business, procedures and processes of doing business in Nigeria, the contact person that you need to talk to if you want to do business in that axis, or indeed any other axis in Nigeria. And then we also publish investment opportunities, what we call the NIPC intelligence. We discovered that one of the key requirements for investors or prospective investors is access to information that they can rely on, information that will help them to take better informed decisions. I don't know if I've spoken too long.
No, you've kept us very informed. Thank you so much. I'm going to go straight to language. Well, from your own perspective, or what your experience has been in the market, are you seeing any more institutional investors making inquiries, even if these have not been turned into deals?
Thank you. My name is Olaniyan. I work for GLL, a real estate services company covering West Africa out of Lagos. So in terms of investment and inquiry about this trade zone, it's a unique opportunity. I think everyone has said, what the opportunities are, what, there's a lot of interest. So it's almost the single largest point of investment right now, or investment focus for Nigeria. And that's very important, because you are going to have an area where you have all these investors coming in, and where those opportunities, and where you have an ecosystem that can develop from servicing and providing services for these firms that have invested in oil and gas or in FMCGs, amongst other things. So the opportunity is there. Now, the thing about Nigeria is how to manage risk, and how an investor should be looking at risk in terms of real estate. So matters like title, which I think we will talk about later, in terms of the external sector and your risk of currency depreciation and how that is managed, in terms of operational efficiencies, and in terms of the strain of the ease of doing business in this country. And I think the good thing is that the way the incentives have been designed now for this zone, all those things are being taken into account, and the idea is to make it a very friendly place to do business. Now, in terms of the scale of the opportunity, I think Nigeria is in a unique place for trade. So the aim is to make this zone a hub for manufacturing, industrialization, and exporting. And in the context of the global economy, where you have a situation where you have these trade wars between China and Africa, China and the US, my apologies, where investors are now pulling back out of emerging markets and going back to to the West where they think that, okay, they can generate better risk-adjusted returns. This is an excellent opportunity for investors to come in and have a point where they can, where they can exploit the African opportunity effectively. And I think the other thing which is also very important is the possibility of trade with the rest of Africa, and having this hub here, which facilitates that. So I think we've been talking about the Continental Free Trade Agreement. And now, sorry, I mean, all that was just setting some context. But in terms of interest from investors, it is there. I think, the last few years have burnt a lot of fingers from an institutional perspective. So, any kind of investment on the real estate side, I'll talk to real estate, has to be well structured and managed. So I think that, with the scale of investment going in, especially on the industrial side and in housing, at some point, I think, when, after some time, not too long, I think, but we're going to see interest from investors in helping some of the companies that have invested there release capital. I mean, you might find situations where people want to do sale and leaseback transactions. I mean, that's going to be a theme with an internationally rated company that can be on the other side of a lease. That would be a fantastic trade to do. I'd love to do one of those. Or joint venture opportunities where you can assist people who come in and want to build with the development finance they need. But again, we talked about the opportunity. I think for investors it's important to de-risk, and that's where you find situations like I think Red Devil will have, as a developer, help to de-risk projects and made it easy for people to come in. So, there's opportunity, there's risk, it must be managed, and I think, because of the concentration of investment we're seeing so far, there's definitely going to be more.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to throw the floor open to anyone who has questions, but there's a question that I want to ask, and I want you to ponder over it for a while. We're talking about infrastructure for the area. We have seen what happened in the Apapa axis. Right now, property values, I can tell you for free as a valuer, over the last 2 years have dropped as much as 40% in Apapa because it's now gridlocked. So it might be helpful if any one of us is able to advise on what the government is planning to do or what the government is not doing, so we know what to do in that axis with regards to that road. We've been talking of an alternative road for about the last 200 years and it hasn't happened. So it will be extremely important for us to know where all those Dangote trucks will go through, as well as, the cars and all that will be going through the axis. But while we hold on that question, I'd like to ask, are there any questions? Yes, we have one over there. Two? Can we just take a maximum of 3? So those 2 questions, 3. So I think we'll just take the questions, and if you'd rather ask one person, please do. Otherwise, I'll just direct the question to anyone.
Good afternoon, my name is Joe. 2 questions actually. First of all, I know if you're part of that question will be answered by the infrastructure question, but I also want to find out when Olaniyan were talking about the 1,000 Victoria Island plus development that's going on, and you talked about all the social services to accompany that, like schools and all of that. You said something about international schools. I want to ask if this large group of stakeholders, yourself, the groups, to begin to look at the social part. You have the 1,000 hectares. You have people working in that. You have people serving those international schools. Their kids don't go to international schools. They probably go to schools in the neighborhood. The people that work in those 1,000 acres will come by bus or whatever system they come to serve all this system that is being put up. So when you're building this beautiful, nice area, what happens to the other section? How can you push that develops just as far so that we don't end up having slums surrounding such a beautiful piece? That's what would that be going on? What kind of thing will be happening there? And then Mr. Emeka, I want to ask, judging by what when Akin was talking about the sheer size of what that place is going to become, and you've given all the mandates that NIPC has, are you looking at putting up some, like a stop shop? You know, they have so many things happening there, the customs and all of that. How are you using your system just want to be like any other regular business of government, but tapping into what they're doing to make sure that you are at the forefront of pushing the narrative for them? Because this is not this is a one of a kind. It's not your regular meal and free trade zone. This is the free trade zone. So what are you going to do to help them push what they're doing with all the 4 mandates that you listed in your speech?
Okay. Thank you very much. Can you hold those questions and we take the other 2 so we can answer them together? Yeah, ladies first. Thank you. We have a gentleman there.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Oluwole. My question is, and I want to thank you first of all for the interesting discussion on the region zone. It's been very enlightening for me. My question is to Emeka, and it's regarding the recent news we heard that a multinational organization in the Agbara area is downsizing, packing up and closing some arm of its business and citing frustration from the Nigerian authorities as a reason for doing that. My question is, how is the NIPC going to tackle such negative reports, negative image, and curb the impact that it would have on other investors in Nigeria and even to the Lekki Free Trade Zone? How do we want to tackle this issue and improve the image and so that we can encourage more investors into the country?
Thank you. And the last question.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I think it's a very exciting discussion and very key to what is happening in our country. But I have some concerns which I think the moderator also raised at the second person. While we're excited to see rendezvous and the partnership with Lagos State government, the question would be, how do we leverage on such partnership? So would the benefit only be for the business, or some commitments could have been extracted in partnering with government to say this and this and this must be in place in terms of the infrastructure? So if we negotiate a 1,000 hectare transaction, that development of the environment is left on probability, then I think that we are not having the right perspective to what such PPP should be all about. So the question is, what were the extractions? I'm privileged to know that in the Dangote transaction, there were clear documented extractions from Lagos State government on what was to be done. Okay, I happen to be close to one of the lawyers in that transaction. So my question is, were there clear documented commitments that would impact on the environment, which you would share with us? Or would you say that this is just a closed transaction where every other thing that government needs to do is on probability? Because I believe that these are opportunities where we can make demands and get from government. Okay. Like Gbenga said, if you leave this thing to probability, you might have another papa. It's possible. We don't know how the next government plays out, and so many things can happen that can truncate all these expectations in the legality. So I think that we need to have more light. I think that has not been done. I don't think it's late to begin to demand for such commitment to ensure that this area is developed in a structured manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Who will take that last one? Oh, you're taking. All right. Can we just try to give our answers in 1 minute each so we can round up?
Well, the truth is that I was part of one of the first movers into the free zone, and we don't have any infrastructural agreements with government. And while I was there, one of the suggestions were, I suggested that there be a surcharge for auxiliary infrastructure, maybe a 0.25 to a 5% across board for all the zones and businesses coming into that area. Already it is a nightmare going into Lekki. I used to stay on the mainland, and I used to travel from Surulere to Lekki at 5 a.m. and by 5:45 I would be there. A couple of days ago I came out of the Chevron roundabout and I tried to go to Lekki just to see what it was like, and it took me about 2 hours. So the trailers are there, it started, and there is no plan. So if we don't do it now, we are going to create something that is going to be worse than a coal bridge. However, the good thing is that we have so much space for logistic parks to reorganize, but I also think that government should look at an agency that will be a supervisory agency, looking at how to harness all these zones together and put in the right infrastructure. Normally, the way a free zone is built is that you first build the infrastructure, then it becomes plug and play. This is a term I've heard from every team that has spoken here today. You build the infrastructure, then you take the infrastructure to the entrance of the free zone. So water is at the doorstep of the free zone, power is at the doorstep of the free zone, the right road is at the doorstep of the free zone, and you just connect. So the free zone is built on the back of the infrastructure. In Nigeria, it's done the other way around. When we finish building this enormous, gigantic economic powerhouse, we now realize that. Let me give this simple example. It's like the houses they built in those days, where when they finished building, they're now asking, how do we get upstairs? They didn't put any staircase. So that's the kind of scenario that is going to play out the way we are going. Thank you.
Well, I believe there's still hope. I think to round up, we just have the question for Emeka. Oh, Olaniyan had one. So please, let's make it 30 seconds each now.
Okay, I'll make it quick. So to talk specifically about the development that Endeavor is doing, I think I didn't have the opportunity to go into too much detail, but the intention is not to build an enclave for luxury housing and for only the rich. It is mixed use, mixed income. So you're going to have accommodation for the full spectrum of people, starting with workers. So there's going to be workers' housing. I did mention that we're going to have housing for people who work there. So it's not just for the executives. So you're going to have all the full spectrum. And the same thing for the ancillary services, including schools. I just made the example of traditional schools being some of the FDIs that were attracted into the country. But it will not be the only. I don't think there's any PPP in this country that is conceived as only exclusive for the rich. And to the question of how the deal was structured with the government, it's a PPP, which means it's almost a social contract. So part of the investment that goes into the project is also social in nature. So we are going to create jobs for the people in the community. We are going to create infrastructure and social welfare packages for the immediate community and beyond. We are also going to commit to ensure that whatever happens around there is sustainable from environmental point of view. So it's a whole value chain of activities that will support social and economic growth of that environment.
Thank you very much. So Emeka, just the final questions, 1 minute.
NIPC publishes quarterly what we call reports of investment announcements. 2 days ago, we published the one for the third quarter. And one of the things that came out from that report, which you can download from our website, is the increasing interest investors are having in the real estate sector. Out of the $70.8 billion worth of investment announcements, the real estate sector accounted for 25%. Now, in addressing the first question about the free trade zone and what NIPC is doing to specifically support investment in that sector, I would like to first of all mention that the primary mandate or the principal mandate for special economic zones or free trade zones lies with NEPSAT, not NIPC, that is the Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority. I know that in terms of managing the place, they have the full mandate, but the Industrial Council set up by Mr. President is also very concerned about how to make life easier in that place. I do not have the mandate of NEPSA to speak. I also do not have the mandate of the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing to speak concerning the infrastructure. On the second question that had to do with downsizing by a multinational in the Agbara axis, my response would be that when the news first broke, NIPC visited the multinational company. We were able to get clarity on what the challenges were. We've articulated those challenges, and we have started work on resolving some of the issues, especially from our understanding there were things that need to be done in terms of advocacy to resolve some challenges they are having. And I think that's the first step for them to know that somebody is talking to them, and then it might take time before we resolve that. But they are no longer in a hurry to escape from Nigeria like they mentioned initially. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I think our panelists deserve a round of applause. Just a 10-second roundup. I guess we've been able to touch on everything. The only sore point that seems to be sticking out is with regards to the road. And our belief is that one of the reasons why we have events like this is to also reach out to the stakeholders so they understand what the issues are with regards to all these topics. So once again, I'd like to thank Gbenga, Lanre, Emeka, and Olaniyan. Of course, I'd like to thank myself as well for thank you for being here.